Welcome to the 19-9 podcast. I'm here with Nick Otis tonight. He is a former teammate of mine, but we're here to talk about the NIBC LaPorte Invitational. And then we can't help but get into some high school basketball in Indiana, reliving some glory days. And he actually played for Belmont in Tennessee as well. So we'll talk a little college hoops to finish up tonight. Welcome to the podcast, Nick.
Thanks, Aaron, for having me.
Hey, let's start here. We always start with basketball origin story. So give us your basketball origin story. How'd you get into the game? What drew you in?
Yeah, Aaron, as you had mentioned, we grew up together. You were a couple years older than me, but my dad was our high school basketball coach. My dad was a high school basketball and college basketball player himself. He played at Valpo High School. He was the all-time leading scorer at Valpo for over a decade and then played Big Ten basketball at Northwestern. And then after college, after he got done playing in college, he coached at Valpo University for a few years and then got into high school coaching and spent over 20 years at LaPorte High School. So I grew up going to games in Indiana, and I think it's kind of tough, as I'm sure you experienced, tough not to love basketball when you're in Indiana.
No doubt. It seemed like, I think we were probably only teammates for like a year or so, but because you were around the team, it seemed like you were around for like my whole high school career.
Right.
Yeah, and you're tall enough to be get out there and play a little bit even before you were in high school.
Yeah, I think, and I think what definitely helped me was certainly the success that the high school had experienced. When you were in school. And just having people everybody was kind of bought into the mentality of winning and what it took to be successful, and certainly playing with guys like Greg Tonigal, who was a high school teammate of ours, who was an Indiana All-Star and now a very successful coach, and Steve Draben, who's a college coach at Bethel University in South Bend. He was my high school and college teammate. So that definitely helped to have guys that were, we talked before we started about Steve. Steve is 5'10", 165 pounds. I don't know of a guy that maximized his ability more than Steve, right? I mean, you've probably seen guys over the years that you're like, boy, that guy left something on the table. You can't say that about Steve. He maximized his God-given ability.
No doubt about it. I think I still talk about your dad. I think one of the things that he did that's underestimated in high school programs is that he would show up at like the 5th grade games in town and just like had this like little grassroots sort of fingers in everywhere, it felt like. And it kind of pulled everything together as it came into high school. And I think that maybe some coaches underestimate that, focusing so much on their team and not realizing like their team has to grow from somewhere. Yeah,
I think especially in a small town like where we grew up, getting community buy-in at that early age is really important. He had the couple things he did really well. He was pretty good at marketing, from getting kids to come to the camps and giving the shirts out, and then he had really good assistants. Both when he retired from Valpo High School, I mean his assistants were just phenomenal. Steve Draben, who we played with, his dad was an assistant, and my dad kind of it was an interesting career because he started as a coach before the 3-point line, right? And then LaPorte, that's what we were known for. So you had these guys that really figured out how to adapt to the game, and we made 3-point shooting cool before it was, right? So
it's weird. It's weird to talk about that. I do think about that sometimes because we did not have a traditional team, and this was like the 90s, way before things really popped off. Like we didn't have feed it into the big guys. Like he's running an offense to get threes.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's transition to talk a little bit about this tournament, because I got to watch some of it on ESPN, which is a big name for a little town, like you said, but it's called the U.S. Marines NIBC LaPorte Invitational. It's over for this year, but it's coming back. So tell me the origin story about this project. Like what's your involvement?
Yeah,
how did it get set up?
It was really fortuitous. I took over as the city attorney in 2017. So I'm an attorney here in LaPorte, Indiana, and took over in 2017. And, the Civic is a place, just like you and I were talking about before we came on the air. The LaPorte Civic Auditorium is built in the 1930s, and it's like even though it wasn't in the movie Hoosiers, I think you could attest, Aaron, it could have clearly been a place where they could have done filming for it, right? It's like you fully expect, like Jimmy Chitwood and the Hickory Huskers to come out at any moment. It's really kind of an iconic facility, and the city's done a really good job, and especially in the last few years of keeping the tradition, but also doing some significant updates to make it a 21st century facility. And so when we started talking about, hey, why, we got Lalamere, they're a national powerhouse, nationally ranked, won a national championship. Let's get a game at this LaPorte Civic Auditorium. And we were just talking about doing like one game, right? Let's just kind of test the waters, and let's see if we could get like a powerhouse from Chicago to come in, and maybe early in the season ESPN will, maybe they'll pick it up or something. And of course, we're pretty naive to understand how. I'll get into kind of how the ESPN stuff works, because it was fascinating to kind of learn how stuff ends up where it does.
I bet.
So we started talking about that, and over the years, Brett Benversi, who's the LaPorte Civic director, had talked with Lalamere, and they went through a couple coaching changes. And so he'd talk to a coach, and it would just kind of there'd be interest and kind of die off. And this happened a couple times, and we totally understand that. And this is not a knock to Lalamere's facilities, but the Civic is a really cool facility, and to bring the kids in for an event like that, especially from their gym, would be really a step up. So,
you're not kidding. I saw that article you sent me. Doug Gottlieb is tweeting out, "Where is this place and how can I get there?"
Right, yeah. We talked to Lalamere a couple times, and then COVID happens, and all of a sudden, Lalamere, what these prep schools did that are in this universe of kind of these premier preparatory schools, and like Oak Hill, all the schools that played in this tournament: Oak Hill, Montverde, IMG Academy, Watsich, Sunrise Christian, and I'm blanking on a couple of the other schools. They were having trouble getting games, right? Because they're not part of a traditional state athletic association,
right? Yeah.
And they give scholarships. They're very open about what it is. It's different than a traditional high school basketball program, and there's certainly, we could probably talk the whole program about maybe the pluses and minuses of that, but they basically formed a conference because they couldn't play games, and so they couldn't get regular teams on their schedule. So they formed these bubbles basically, and they'd go play in what would that be? I'm losing track of my 2020, 2021 season. They'd go to different places and just play each other a bunch of times just so they could get games. So they reached out to us last season about, hey, could we do an event at the Civic? And we were really trying to make it work, and we just couldn't get, I think with where the COVID was at that point and vaccines weren't widely available, we just weren't comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
But we said, let's keep talking. So what they did is they formed this conference of 8 schools, and they're spread out throughout, from Virginia, Florida, Kansas. Yeah, they're all over the place. I think there's one in Utah. I mean, they're really spread out.
Yeah, there is.
So part of their conference includes this company called Paragon Marketing, who specializes in kind of getting high school events. They put them out on. They work with different production companies, and that's how these games end up on ESPN. So nice. They do all kinds of prep sports: football, basketball. I'm sure they do other stuff as well. But they are very, very organized. It was very impressive. So we start talking to them probably in the summer. Maybe early fall. I don't remember when it was. And we first bring the Lalamere guys into the Civic. Some of them, just being local, had been in the Civic, and some had not. And they were just like...
So this is the players you're bringing in?
The coaches, the athletic director.
Okay.
And then their headmaster, right? So at prep schools like that, it's not a principal. You got to make sure you use their version of that. Right words. So the headmaster. And for people that don't know, Lalamere... Some of these schools that do this what you call prep basketball. They're fly-by-night schools, right? They're really just basketball teams that kind of form a school. Lalomere is a legit prep school, like a very, very good private school. Kids from all over the world come there. I mean, they probably have kids representing 3 or 4 continents, right? So they're
For sure.
a legitimate prep school. John Roberts, who's the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, is a Lalomere grad. Many, many prominent Lalomere grads. So
yeah, they've been around forever too. They're not like an up and comer. They just are new to the basketball scene, kind of.
Right. They kind of decided, maybe a decade ago to kind of get into this, and I think they've walked the tightrope very well with it while maintaining their high academic standards and then having this very prominent basketball program. So we had all of them out, and the ones that had not been to the Civic were like, this place is awesome. We think the event, they're just blown away. Yeah. And it was like a perfect, like, sunny day. And I don't know how long it's been since you've been in there, Aaron, but they got these huge windows, and it was just gleaming. It looked great. And so they said, let's get our marketing people, this Paragon Marketing, and they're based out of Chicago. So they brought all these different people from Chicago, and they were just same thing, just like, this place is amazing. And the only criticism that they had was they brought a guy, one of their kind of lighting guys, and he just said it's really, really dark in here. He had a light finger. And
that I remember about it.
What's that?
That I remember about it.
Right. So it worked out really well that the city was able to use coronavirus relief funds, so that the federal government issued funds to millions and millions of dollars to billions and billions of dollars to cities, and then this city of LaPorte ended up with millions. And one of the things you could use it for is tourism. Well, clearly, I mean, the Civic does we do all kinds of things related to tourism. So we're able to put new lights in, and they're fantastic. It basically doubled the I don't know what the lighting term is, but it significantly improved the lighting. So and that the other things that we talked about with them were, we don't want to just have another event that you guys go to. We said we feel pretty confident. We're in Indiana. When we watch you guys on ESPN, you got half full gyms. Like we think we can pack this out, and of course we say that and we're not really sure can we do that. But we felt like with the caliber of players that they had kids going to Notre Dame, Indiana, Purdue, Michigan State, all these different Big Ten schools and local schools, that we thought that the junkies that are into college basketball would, definitely be there. So
the real sickos, huh?
Yeah. Right. Because they're just guys, and it's most guys, of course, that just live and breathe this stuff, and so. So one of the other conversations we had was what are the expectations, like, from food to hotels to, like, we wanted to make sure we delivered on a really high class event for the kids, because two of the schools, IMG Academy is in Bradenton, Florida, and Montverde is just outside Orlando. I mean, they're coming into Northwest Indiana in the middle of winter, right? Like, you got to make sure it's a good.
You might not own coats even.
Right. Montverde, who came into the tournament number 1 in the country. Some of them didn't have coats, and I mean, they just they didn't think of it, and so. We wanted to make sure that other than the weather, the things that we could control, there was a top-notch event. So we brought in the LaPorte County Visitors Bureau. So anytime, I think most counties in Indiana probably have something similar, where part of your hotel tax goes to fund the Visitors Bureau that can help fund these events. So we met with them, and they said, hey, probably the best place to put it, you'll think this is kind of ironic, but the best place to house all the teams is the Blue Chip Casino, because and you kind of chuckle about that, but it's like it is a very nice venue. Of course, the kids aren't going to get into the casino unless they did something really dumb, but you could house the 7 away teams, because obviously Lalomere stays on campus, but the the 7 away teams from a food perspective. I mean, they just do a great event, and that's where I didn't know this till this happened, but most of the teams that play football against Notre Dame stay at the Blue Chip. So
makes sense.
They don't want to be in South Bend, and it's a close enough distance for most of them. So the Blue Chip did an absolutely fabulous job. So and we made sure, hey, are we giving the right types of food? And it turns out they didn't have, we didn't know if they were expecting steak dinners or what, but like Jimmy John's, Chipotle, I mean, that stuff did just fine. So,
that goes over well with high school guys.
Right.
They can do that.
So the event was a Thursday to Saturday, and the first day, the Thursday, wasn't very well attended, but Friday and Saturday, the place was just rocking.
It was packed.
I mean,
yeah,
it was. I think that the locals here really embraced it. I got the sense from looking at social media after the fact that the schools were really appreciative of the fans. Like, they don't get to play in loud venue. I follow a lot of those schools and then the NIBC on social media, and I mean, where they're at wherever they're playing right now, it's maybe half full, and it didn't look like anybody was really into it. And
it's hard because they're traveling to like the kind of random places, and the size of the schools. I mean, I don't know what the enrollment is at Lalomere. But it's not like the kids are going to get on planes and fly to if they went to out to a Utah tournament.
Right, exactly. Like, and so I don't even remember where they were this week, but it just you're exactly right that it just. For kids that are so unbelievably talented, they rarely get to play in front of any sort of significant crowd. So they really got into it. Lalomere, of course, had somewhat of a home field advantage because they did have a student section there. They got a kid that's got long flowing hair, and he dresses up like Jesus for every game, and they call him JV Jesus. He was in the front row, so you probably saw him. So
sure, yeah.
But it really was. Just a really great event. There was a lot of college coaches that came there. I
heard that one of my friends works out in New Mexico, and his dad was at the event and got a picture with one of the New Mexico coaches sitting next to him. So the college coaches certainly traveled to see this.
Yeah, we honestly expected a few more of the head coaches, but it's of course middle of the season, and maybe they just sent their assistants there, but. Alabama, Auburn, Notre Dame, Northwestern, Xavier, and I'm sure I'm missing some of them, but it was just from that perspective really cool to see some of these guys. So we did sign a 2-year contract with them. You mentioned it's coming back next year, so I think we put on a really great event. The marketing people were really pumped with how it looked. So you mentioned, or I mentioned, I guess, kind of how this ESPN stuff works. It was kind of an interesting story about the Friday night game. Lalomere played Oak Hill, and they were originally supposed to play at 6 o'clock. And then on Thursday, so this is a Friday night, Thursday we learned that they flipped the 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock game, and they moved Lalomere and Oak Hill to 8. And they moved it to ESPN2, which is a huge, like it was only going to be streamed on ESPN Plus, and they flipped it to ESPN2 because LeBron James' son was supposed to be on at that time slot, and his game got canceled because of COVID. Oh. And they just slipped that Lalomere game in. But what a huge benefit to have. I mean, you think about it's not a huge, probably people, I don't know how close people are paying attention, but all of a sudden, ESPN2, you're on probably every sports bar in the country, right? You're on every...
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So every hotel, every, whatever. So it was really a great event. I did get, I guess I should say, I got messages from people that I had not talked to in many years, just like on social media, like, hey, I've got the game, like, hey, I know you're in LaPorte, like, watching this. So that was really, really cool part of it.
Yeah, just that recognition where it's like that's exactly how it was. I know I had heard about it from Nick Burnell, one of our other former teammates. And so I was just out to eat before I watched the Friday, Saturday games, but I was just out to eat on Thursday and looked up and they had ESPNU on, and there it was. And I was like pointing out to the people I was with. I was like, oh, that's my hometown.
Right.
Yeah, it's just fun. And that name recognition, word of mouth stuff goes a long way.
Yeah, so it really went well. We're going to do, as you do with a lot of big events, like a follow-up call with all the main parties here in the next couple weeks about things that we could do to improve. And there were certainly a couple things, but they were really minor in the scheme of, the event really went off well. But it's not easy to put on an event like that. We had to, for example, just a small thing, all the officials were small college basketball officials, which are not cheap to get, right? So the high school basketball officials probably $75 to $100 a game. I think we were paying some of the officials north of $300 a game. And so it just got, just some of those logistical things that you had to figure out. But we made it work, and it went off really, I think from our perspective, really well. And a lot of credit goes, obviously to Brett Benversi, who's the Civic director, and our Parks Department director, Mark Schreiber, and then to the mayor, because he just doesn't take no from people.
Also a hooper.
Also a hooper, right. And he played college baseball at Purdue. But yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I was standing there with him, and he's talking to the owner of Paragon Marketing. I think this was the first day, and he's like, just like on him, like, what do we got to do to host the national championship? You're not going to have a better atmosphere. He's just like always selling, right? And so it's crazy. Like, you kind of think in a small town sometimes, oh, this could never happen in a city like this. And you just keep pushing, and, this event could lead to the next event. Or maybe, one of the things if you read that article that I had sent you from the South Bend Tribune, what about hosting a college basketball game there?
For sure, yeah.
And these times where even good college basketball teams are struggling to get fans. What about playing in a 1,500 seat gym where it's just like rocking, right?
They had a game on an aircraft carrier.
Right.
You could do something at an old Indiana gym and probably have a better quality of game than it was in the aircraft carrier.
Yeah. So one of the things we really had to consider. So our mayor is Tom Dermody. His nephew, Todd Dermody, who's a couple years younger than me, actually broke a backboard there at a high school event. This would have been 15 years ago, 16 years ago at this point. So we were really concerned. Like, we got some kids that are going to be NBA players. Like, we had a backup backboard just in case, So luckily nobody destroyed a backboard. But Aaron, these kids are so
that'd have been great television if they did.
Oh, it absolutely would have been. But these kids are so athletic at this level. I think we had over 20 top 100 basketball players in the country at this event. Montverde alone had 6 top 25 players in the country on their team. So one player doesn't start, and he's ranked in the top 25 in the country, right?
That is,
so
wild, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I was walking in on Friday night, and somebody I knew was walking out, and he was like, "Oh, I came because I'm a big IU fan, and Montverde's got a kid that's committed to IU, right?" So that's what drew a lot of people, was to see this type of athleticism.
Yeah.
Even with really good high school basketball in Northwest Indiana, you're not going to see that on that kind of basis.
Right. Yeah. Just the level of competition and the closeness that you could get to. It had to be a cool experience. So what was it like seeing the games then? Were they competitive games, the ones you got to see?
Yeah. So definitely the Lalamere, I was not able to attend the Saturday events because I was out of town, but the first day, Montverde was number 1 in the country, got beat by Sunrise Christian, so in pretty decided fashion. And then the first day, most of the games were just kind of lopsided. And then the second day, we had some really close games. And the ESPN2 game between Lalamere and Oak Hill was definitely a very good game. And I'm blanking on the name of Oak Hill's coach, but he's like, we were kind of joking, he's kind of the OG of high school prep basketball. They were one of the first to kind of do the prep basketball scene with.
Yeah, they're like Carmelo and all the guys from even before that.
Right.
Like,
so he's been there forever, and he's an example of a guy. He posted about the Civic on his social media. So you know, it's just
nice.
You add that stuff up, and that is one of the things that NIBC, that Paragon and this NIBC, that they put together, was the social media aspect was really, really impressive. So, so that was really, fun to see. And I think too that we were able to deliver on our promises of, having a great venue and a great event, and it just went really well. And I thought that the article from the South Bend Trib that I had sent you really kind of summed it up.
For sure. Yeah. So what is it about? Let's switch to talking a little Indiana high school basketball. What is it about Indiana high school basketball or basketball in Indiana that resonates still? I think that for us it could have been the single class system, but it seems like people still care. I live in a small town still in Indiana.
I follow on social media a couple Indiana high school fan pages, high school basketball fan pages, and I think you're down in southern Indiana now, right?
Yep.
And it seems like down there, from the pictures that get posted, it's still as big a deal as it was maybe when we were growing up and before we were around. Up here, it's kind of hit or miss. I think it really depends on if somebody's got a good team at this point. I think when we were growing up, you could still be kind of average and still get pretty good crowds. Anymore up here, that's not the case, I would say. But the one day of the year where it's still like fun is, I would say, the regional up here at Michigan City still gets.
That's such a great old gym.
It is, and you usually get you're in the 4A class for that, and it's usually 4 really good northern Indiana schools, and it can get kind of rowdy in there still on Saturday morning and Saturday night.
Yeah, they've got the giant bleachers. So something like 6,000 people that you can.
Yeah, probably the best. I was lucky, since my dad was the coach, that I got to see a lot of good events there over the years. Probably the last time that place that I remember it rocking was this would have been it was Robbie Hummel and Scott Martin.
Oh yeah.
They played at Valpo High School together, and then went on to play at Purdue together. And they were playing against East Chicago, who had Etwan Moore, who's in the NBA.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Played at Purdue with both of those guys. And East Chicago beat them and went on to win the state championship. That was standing room only. I mean, they had to start turning people away. That was pretty fun atmosphere. But yeah, it's not. I can tell down in southern Indiana, it's still a really big deal. In fact, are you in Jasper, Indiana?
Yeah.
Like Jasper's new gym. Holy smokes! Like,
I know, right?
It's unbelievable that usually now when you see communities build something, they don't build them as big anymore. And for a town or the city the size of Jasper to build something like that, it was obviously a commitment to their athletic facilities.
Well, we've got a little gym here, Cabby O'Neill gym too, that is just fantastic too. Super neat old gym too, which was the old high school gym when they won their championship in the early 50s or something like that. So pretty crazy.
But this past weekend, I think Lagodi played Bar Reeve, which are like these tiny little schools.
Tiny.
And there's 4,500 people at the game, and that's like how many people live in the county, right? So,
it is. People around here still travel, especially like when there's the Zeller boys were playing in Washington. So that's a really cool gym too.
That's one that I've always wanted to get to. Of course, you and I got to go to the Wigwam in Anderson, which is sadly closed.
Rest in peace.
Right. But obviously Newcastle is a cool venue, but there's some of these smaller venues. Civic's a good example that aren't that big, but just have great character, right? So
great bones, no doubt.
So I think you see like what Knightstown has done with where the home gym of the Hickory Huskers in the movie Hoosiers. They've turned that into this venue where they just play events there nonstop, or you and I could go rent it out, right, and take our buddies and go play there. Obviously, I don't think the Civic could get to that, kind of that iconic because it wasn't in a movie. But I think it's a venue that people come into it and they're just like, wow, this is a beautiful venue, and you don't even have to be a basketball fan to appreciate that. So
yeah. Well, when Netflix reboots Hoosiers as a series, you need to get them to use the Civic.
Right.
We're ready.
Yeah. So a couple years. Well, this would have been 2016. Ted Cruz was still in the presidential race and came and spoke at the Civic. So I went just out of curiosity more than anything, and Glenn Beck opened for Ted Cruz, and whatever you think of Glenn Beck, and he's this very good, he can capture you, and he started talking about the Civic and the history of it, and it was you're I don't think Glenn Beck's a basketball fan, but he's like this. It's just such a cool, beautiful,
draws you in, right? The bones of it. Yeah. That's awesome.
I've joked that I think really that Mayor Dermody's ultimate goal is to get Pearl Jam to play at the Civic, because I think that's his secret goal.
I'm in on that. Let me know when he gets that hooked up. Well, give us some of your favorite high school experiences, because like you said, you grew up in it, but you had your own career that was pretty storied at LaPorte. So what were a couple of your favorite high school experiences? Maybe one is watching growing up and one playing.
Yeah, I think I think it would have been your junior year in high school, and I was in 8th grade, and the LaPorte basketball team went to the Final Four. That whole experience was very exciting, and I think a couple of things from that. I don't think I was the smartest middle schooler at the time, but I was smart enough to kind of appreciate that that at the Final Four there was 28 or 30,000 people there, whatever it was. And it was the city of LaPorte's got 22,000 people. There's more people here to watch a bunch of teenagers play basketball, and that was such a just eye-opening experience to kind of sit at the end of the bench and just see what hard work got you, right? It wasn't. There was certainly some luck involved, just like any march for basketball to get to that point, right? I think a couple games could have gone, were close games, and maybe we don't end up there, but
one went the wrong way too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that last game that they lost, but it wasn't luck that got that team there. It was a bunch of guys that committed to making themselves the best versions of themselves, right? And I think what's kind of cool is I'm younger than all of you, but every one of you guys has gone on to do really fantastic things with your lives, and I don't think that's a coincidence, right? That
I don't think so.
That's happened. And so the other thing that my dad's kind of a storyteller, but
kind of is an
I remember this the day before the Final Four, the team, and of course my dad, I'm there, and the coaches are there, and there was they had an event at the Marat Theater, for all the basketball teams, and Bobby Plump came up to the team, and of course, I think most people probably know who that is, but Bobby Plump's, who in the movie Hoosiers, he's the one that hits the last second shot in real life, right? So for Milan when they won the state championship, he came up to speak to the team, and at the same time, Senator Richard Lugar came up, and he had to wait for Bobby Plump to be done speaking, and my dad just kind of joked only in Indiana does the senator have to wait for the basketball legend to get done, right? So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. But growing up too, my dad played college basketball at Northwestern, and his college coach was Tex Winter. Yeah. And Tex went on to win 9 NBA championships with the Bulls and the Lakers. He was the mastermind behind the triangle offense that the Bulls ran with Jordan and Pippen, and then later with the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. And my dad got to play for him, and so my dad would take me to a Bulls game usually every year, and we'd get to go down and talk to Coach Winter. And it was just, for a kid that just idolized Jordan, to get that close down there, it was just a really cool experience, right? So, I don't know how many times you got to go to Bulls games, but I didn't really appreciate how lucky I was until I got to college, and none of my college teammates had ever got to see Jordan play live, right? So,
I didn't realize how lucky I was to be a Bulls fan when Jordan was there until the Bulls were terrible for till this
it's
year.
a hard
pretty
ticket
much.
to get now,
Yeah.
Aaron. It's
Yeah,
a lot of my friends now have kids and they're wanting to take their boys to the game. It's like they're like, geez, I'm gonna have to like tap my IRA or something to go to a game. So
no doubt.
but I think as a player. I don't know if I had. I mean, certainly in college, my 15 seconds of fame were beating Missouri when they were in the top 25. That was a really great experience, and for people that follow college basketball, that was kind of the first step for Belmont, where I played. For the steps that they've taken over the years to become really a kind of a mid-major powerhouse, for lack of a better term. So that was certainly exciting playing. I got my scholarship because the Belmont had come to watch my high school teammate Steve Draben, who had already committed there, and they came. This was actually kind of goes to the point of Indiana high school basketball. The two assistant coaches for Belmont's in Nashville came to Michigan City to watch the sectionals when we were playing, and we played Michigan City in the championship game my junior year, and there's about 6,000 fans there, and they, I think to this day, would still say it was the best high school basketball game they'd ever been to. So
crazy.
I just kind of right place at the right time, and ended up, they followed me that summer, and that's how I got my scholarship.
That's awesome. What was the basketball atmosphere like in Nashville?
Not great, right? So, I mean, not terrible. We certainly got a couple games where we got to play.
So Belmont had only been like Division I for a few years by the time you got there.
Yeah,
right?
my freshman year was the first year that they were fully eligible.
Oh, okay.
And we were building a new arena at the time, and so my freshman and sophomore year we had to play off campus, and so it was just tough, obviously, to get fans to your games. And then my junior year we opened with the Curb Event Center, which is where they still play, and it's a great venue, about 5,000 seats, and it's like it's a true kind of small arena, and so they have drawn better and better fans. They've moved to the Ohio Valley, which like Murray State, who actually thumped them yesterday, but they're moving to the Missouri Valley next year, which is even a bigger step up. So it's definitely improved. I think success, like anything, draws fans, and the more successful they've become, the better fan base that they've had.
Yeah, it's cool to have been there at the beginning of kind of the Division I process there.
And it's cool. Great going back. And, I will say one of the great things, Belmont has done a lot of great things, and it's mind-blowing to go back to that campus. When I was there, when I started, there was 3,000 students. They have 9,000 students now. And I bet they've built 10 buildings since I've been there. And
crazy.
Some of that's obviously great leadership. Some of it's being lucky, probably being right in Nashville, right?
Yeah, that kind of goes with the city too,
right? That's it. Like, people will ask me, Nick, what should I do in Nashville? And like, I don't know, because half of the stuff that's there now wasn't there when I was there. So, it's a really cool town, and of course Vanderbilt's kind of the big deal there, right? I think that's
right.
When I tell people I went to school in Nashville, they'll be like, "Oh, did you go to Vanderbilt?" I was like, "No, I was definitely not good enough to play at Vanderbilt." So
yeah. All right, well, let's end with some quick hitters,
sure.
And we'll get you out of here. We so appreciate your time tonight and telling us a little bit about this event. And I'm gonna try to make it up there next year. I heard about so late in the process, but I'm gonna definitely check it out myself next year. So, what is your favorite place to visit in Nashville?
Ooh, I'd have to say the Pancake Pantry. So
all right.
It's
a classic.
Yeah, it's the place that I always recommend people check out for breakfast. It was the place that I went on my official visit when I went there, and I went there last time I was down in Nashville in December, and definitely checked it out. So that's my pick to click if you're going to be in Nashville.
Get there early, or you're going to be waiting.
Right.
All right. What's the coolest arena you played in?
Ooh, that's man. I'd have to say it's just where it's packed. Like Michigan City is which is one of the largest high school gyms in the United States. when that place is packed, it's a pretty fun place to play. I got to play at Memphis at the old Pyramid. Well, I think it's still there. It's just not used as an arena anymore.
Right.
And I like those older, like all the new professional arenas. Obviously, they're very, very nice, but they don't have that same feel that I'd say some of the older places have. So the Pyramid was pretty cool. My first college game was at Southern Illinois, and that's a place that can be not a fun place to play for a visiting college basketball team.
Yeah. Well, maybe this goes with that then. Who were the craziest or wildest opposing fans that you faced?
Luckily, I never had to play at Duke because Belmont played at Duke after I played, and I heard that they're pretty terrible. So our biggest rival was Lipscomb University, which is literally 2 miles down the road from Belmont. And so you would know like personal things about the other players. And this is actually an ode to Belmont's fans. But my senior year, we were playing Lipscomb, and their point guard had just broken up with his girlfriend, and our student section chanted her name every time he got the ball. So
that's brutal.
Yeah. So,
all right. You go ahead.
No, I think that's really about it. I know when we played at Missouri, one of my college teammates was an Eagle Scout, and he didn't play. And they were just like on him the entire game.
Oh my gosh. That's good. I like the lighthearted fun. You got it. Does adds to the atmosphere.
Right.
There could be. That's the rivalries are important in college basketball. The atmosphere and knowing things about the community, I think, makes it more entertaining to the fans.
Absolutely.
All right. Who is the most impressive opponent you ever played against?
One guy that kind of went unheralded was Matt Friji, who played at Vanderbilt. Matt was a year ahead of me in school. I think he was the SEC Player of the Year. He was drafted by Miami, and I think maybe played just a couple years in the NBA, and then I probably played overseas would be my guess. But in the summer, we'd play Vanderbilt was where you'd go, like if you're a college basketball player, to play pickup, and he was he's 6'10", he could shoot, and it was just like a reminder of like how good you had to be to make it in the NBA, because he's SEC Player of the Year. And another guy that would play a lot in those summer pickup games was a guy named Dante Jones, and not the one that played at Duke, but this one Dante Jones played at Mississippi State in the early 90s.
Oh yeah, okay.
And played in the NBA for a little bit, and then I don't know if he had some personal issues or what, but ended up playing overseas and had a long career overseas and was nasty. Ron Mercer would come to those pickup games, and a couple other NBA guys that I'm blanking on right now. And Dante Jones would, in my opinion, just be the best player there. 6'8", 6'9", could do everything. And I remember a couple times I was on his team one time, and all I could do was shoot, but he knew I was a good shooter. And once you'd play to 7 by ones, and so it was like very cutthroat. And I was just like nervous sometimes, and he just yelled at like shoot, like he knew that's what I was good at, right? And if I'm not doing that, like what the hell am I doing on the court? So, but he was really fun guy to watch and play against.
Love it. Well, again, appreciate you coming on. We'll have to next year when I'm up. We'll figure out a time to maybe shoot some hoops.
Yeah, well, yeah, you definitely come up next year. I think it's going to be. As the marketing people reminded us, like we have proof of concept, right?
That's right. That's right. Word of mouth now too.
Right. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you'll decide to come up to the frozen tundra.
That's right. I'll get my snowshoes out.
Right.
I've got a winter jacket still.
Yeah, good.
All right, Nick. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks.